In this example, we are going to be going through nested for loops. So first, let me create a string, and I'm just going to call this string letters. And I'm going to type out all the letters of the alphabet: J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Make sure I didn't forget any. Good. If I forgot any, let me know. But these are all of the letters of the alphabet, so it should be 26 of them. Let's say I want to loop through and I want to write out like A, B, A, C, A, D, all the way through where I get finally to like B, A, B, 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 C, and then all the way at the very end of it, print out Z, Z. So it's gone through all the different combinations of printing them back to back. The way I could do that is by actually using something called a nested for loop, which is a for loop inside of another for loop. So if I were to say for I in letters, and remember I just use I, it's common to use I in for loops, just saying that the very first letter is going to start with 0. So for the 0 index in there, I'm going to loop through. Now, if I write another for loop inside of there and say for J, I'm using J because if you have I, then the next thing is J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and so on. So I'll say for J in letters, an entirely different variable. I'm just going to print out I plus J, right? So I'm really just going to, I'm not adding the two, not an addition, but just concatenation of putting them together. So it would be AA, AB, AC. So it's going to loop through, and I'll run it first, and I'll explain it. Okay, so watch this. And it loops through, and it should end in ZZ. Now, if I scroll up here, take a look. AA, AB, AC, AD, AE. So what I've done is I've used the very first letter, okay, and the second letter is A. Then I've moved on to AB, AC, AD, and so on. So that moves all the way through. So what it's basically saying is, all right, for A, also, while I already have A here, I'm going to look at a second index separate from I, a second variable, and I'm going to go ahead and start over there. So A remains the same. If you look, A remains the same all the way down once it gets to Z. So this loop right here prints out the A, or this gets the A set up, right? So it sets up the A. And then this sets up the second letter. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a comment here and say first letter, and I'll say second letter. So if I go through A all the way down, the second for loop, the one that's nested inside of this for loop, gives me the second letter. So for J, for the second letter, go all the way through. Once I reach the max, once I've reached Z, it's going to break out of this for loop and go back to here. So now I'm moving on to B. I went through all the A's. Now I move on to B. Now B is my first letter. And then I go back down to the next for loop, and it starts off B, A, B, B, and so on. So B, A, B, 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 C. And that keeps looping through all the way until at the very end, Z is hit, right? So ZA, right? And then you go all the way down, and finally once it reaches ZZ, it realizes that there's no more letters left in the alphabet, and then just breaks out, and it's done. So this is an example of a nested for loop. Now you can have, like, let's say I wanted to add another one, right? So I'll go ahead and add a third one. So for HIJ, so I'll say K for K in letters. And I'll add a comment here and just say this is my third letter. I'll go ahead and print I, J, and K all together like that. So now, instead of 2 letters, we've added 3. All right, so this is going to take a little bit longer to loop through, and I'll probably stop the video before it gets all the way through. But as you see, it goes through every single combination. Eventually, the first one will be C here, and then D, right? So it will go through and print out every single possible 3-letter word. And if you waited through, you could take your time and wait, but it would be a while to go through all of them. I can just close out this and kill the program. But this is an example of another nested for loop. So this is nested inside this for loop, and this is nested inside this for loop. And the third letter just works exactly the same as the second letter in the first. So that is a nested for loop in Python.